Hello, everyone. I'm EJ Hradek from the NHL Network, and so happy and proud to be part of the Toyota USA Hockey Virtual Disabled Hockey Festival. We are having a disabled hockey virtual roundtable, and we've got some great panelists here to talk about the different things that USA Hockey has been doing in the area of disabled hockey and also the Greater Paralympic movement that we've seen over the last several years and continues to grow and will really be on display when we head to Beijing for the Olympics and the Paralympics there. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists, and we'll start with someone that I've interviewed before, JJ O'Connor. He is the chair of the USA Hockey Disabled Hockey Section. JJ, how are you?
I'm great, EJ. How you doing?
Good, good. I love the fireplace. You're looking very sharp there.
Thanks. I'm just trying to stay warm.
All right, let me give the quick background for the viewers. JJ has held that position as the chair of USA Hockey's Disabled Hockey Section since 2002, and after a hockey accident left JJ a quadriplegic at age 16. He got involved with the Disabled Hockey Section, and he has made an immeasurable impact on the sport. I've seen that firsthand, and USA Hockey has grown to recognize 6 disciplines of disabled hockey around the country. We're going to get into some of that a little bit later. I want to also introduce Taylor Lipsett. He is with the USA Hockey sled hockey representative, 2-time Paralympic gold medalist. And Taylor, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Excited to be here and talk a little bit of hockey.
All right. I love that. I love that. You got your playoff beard going already, so you're looking good.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Stars aren't looking so good, but I'm going to hold out hope.
All right. Well, there's still time. There's still time. And tell a little bit of Taylor's background. As I said, part of Team USA from 2003 to 2014 when he retired from playing the game. But as I said, part of 2 World Championship gold medals, now serves as sled hockey representative on USA Hockey Disabled Hockey Section and an athlete rep on the USA Hockey Board of Directors. So quite a bit that you've got on your plate. Let's move on to Glenn Merry, who is the executive director of Move United. And Glenn, how you doing there? Everything good today?
Everything's great. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to the conversation tonight.
And Glenn, for the viewers again, he's been in this position as executive director of Move United since 2018, and he is responsible for the effective management and growth of Move United's operations and programs and the fulfillment of the organization's missions, and previously served as CEO of US Rowing and has held many leadership positions on US OPC Council. So Glenn, thank you so much for taking the time today.
My pleasure.
And finally, Russ Koble. Russ is the Olympic and Paralympic marketing expert from Toyota and a big part of this whole week with the USA Hockey Paralympic movement. And Russ, good to have you here as well. How's things going today?
Fantastic, EJ. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the conversation.
And Russ has been overseeing the sponsorship strategy and production team at Toyota Motor North America. His team is accountable for collaborating across the organization to set the direction for Toyota's holistic sponsorship strategy, inclusive of the Olympics, Paralympics, and much more. So you guys have been doing great work, and we really appreciate that. So thanks for your time as well today.
All right, thank you.
All right, JJ, we're going to start with you. Our first topic for this roundtable is the domestic initiatives for adaptive sports. And I want to start with you. You obviously have lived this. How did the Disabled Hockey Section get started, and why is disabled hockey really important to USA Hockey?
Sure. Well, long time ago, there really wasn't a disabled hockey section. There was a gentleman by the name of Irv Tianabek, and he had a son that had hearing impairments, and his son struggled to be a part of just general hockey, regular hockey, obviously having hearing impairments, trouble communicating, understanding, hearing whistles, all the things that go into it. So Irv really came to USA Hockey and kind of kicked off disabled hockey. They've been around, I think, over 40 years now. And Irv served on the board of USA Hockey representing deaf hockey for several years, but was getting older. And so they were looking for somebody new to kind of head up this section and really take it to the next level. And at the time I had just graduated college. I had broke my neck playing hockey, so had a disability, and got to meet some of the different people in USA Hockey. So they asked if I was interested in running for the position, and I was elected. And 2002 was such a long time ago, but really just a moment ago. And since that time, we started with 4 disciplines, and now we're up to 6. And the section started out with me and just under 5 people in the room, and now we have section reps and all across the country. And those section reps have their own section reps, and really we've grown exponentially over the course of 19 years now, and really feel like things have taken off quite a bit, and proud of what USA Hockey has done. Glenn could probably speak to this a little more knowledgeably than I can, but I know that USA Hockey is one of the few governing bodies that actually incorporates the disabled or adaptive portion of the game right into its programming and within its its confines of the regular sport. So I'm proud of the organization that I'm a part of, and the fact that they're willing to take on disabled hockey and make it a part of their programming, just like all their other programs.
Glenn, you want to follow up on what JJ was talking about there about other groups?
Yeah, I think so. Move United is a relatively new name for as a result of a merger last year between Adaptive Sport USA and Disabled Sport USA, which both have 50 and 60-year histories. And the reason those organizations existed is they predate the Paralympic movement in the United States. And as a result, a lot of Paralympic sports have come to be through other organizations, and not all of the national governing bodies actually control and run the Paralympic versions of their sport or the adaptive sport aspects of their sport. US Hockey is very progressive, I think, with its colleagues as far as leading the charge on this inclusiveness of bringing adaptive hockey to play. And it's an unusual thing. There are many top-ranking national governing bodies that aren't running it. In those cases, there's either a management organization that's running the team, or it's run directly by the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee.
Yeah, well, I wanted to get you to jump in and just give us a thought, because you played and you benefited from being a part of that sled hockey program. How has it changed, really, in over these many years from when you started to where we are now?
Yeah, it's definitely changed tremendously over the years. I was introduced to the sport in 2002, right after the guys got back from the Paralympic Games in Salt Lake City, Utah, and brought home a gold medal. And that was really the launching point for my experience with the game, and honestly for the sport itself in the United States. When I first started, there was maybe 5, maybe 10 adult teams throughout the country, and maybe 5 youth programs in the country. And today we have well over 100 programs across the United States. I'm not exactly sure the exact split of adult and youth programs, but the majority of programs have both adult and youth programs associated with them. And so, just based on the simple math here, it's definitely grown over tenfold over the last couple of decades, which has been amazing. We have thousands of players throughout the country. And it's just growing exponentially still, even in the midst of this global pandemic that we've experienced over the last year. We've had a couple of programs start working to get things in order so that when rinks open back up, they're ready to hit the ice. And we're really excited about that as well.
It's great to have so many people at the grassroots level. I'm at hockey rinks all the time, and I see all kinds of different people really helping others participate in this great game. But it's really, really helpful when we have backing from the corporate world. And Russ, I want to ask you, because Toyota made a big statement at the Super Bowl. You guys came forward with a commercial in the Super Bowl, which always is a big deal. And you didn't really feature a car in the commercial. You featured a Paralympic swimmer Jessica Long. And, that's the kind of thing that creates awareness for people in the, just at home, and brings it to light for people. Why is it so important for Toyota, do you think, to be involved in this?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's awareness. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we're involved in the Olympic and Paralympic space, but having the opportunity to share Jessica's story, and our spot in the Super Bowl was called Upstream. And that's as one of our Team Toyota athletes, we were able to tell her incredible story and her journey and her accomplishments, as well as telling a great story about her family. So really excited about that. We chose not to feature a vehicle or a mobility product in the spot to keep the focus on Jessica and her family and the amazing story. So, the fact is, Upstream really does highlight our mission to shine a light on the athletes like Jessica, who work tirelessly every day to pursue their passions and inspire people around the world to reach their full potential. And in fact, this wasn't the first time that we decided not to feature a vehicle or a mobility product in the Super Bowl ad. In 2018, we debuted a spot called Good Odds with Paralympic athlete Lauren Wollstonecroft. So, Good Odds actually marked a first in the automotive space. Toyota was the first automaker to not feature a vehicle in a big game ad. And then actually back in 2015, we shared an ad with Amy Purdy, a Paralympian, for the Toyota Camry. We also know that the big game is the single largest TV viewing audience annually in the US, and it attracts millions of viewers. So it really gives Toyota a platform to be able to position ourselves to make a statement of who we are as a company. And this year we chose to use that opportunity to elevate the awareness of the Paralympic movement.
How much discussion goes into something like that? It's a big deal. I mean, that is a big decision. Like, what is the background there?
It is a big decision. It goes through a lot of discussions through all levels of the organization. It's, as I said, the single biggest opportunity for us to tell a story. So really to have the support of the whole organization to put that ad on TV for the Super Bowl really says a lot, in my opinion, about the values of the company and how it aligns with the Olympic and Paralympic movement.
Glenn, I want to just bring you back in on this too, is just, again, when the corporate world gets involved to this extent, I mean, it seems like that is big time value in getting that message out. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, and something that we've seen over the past 3 years is a tremendous growth in adaptive sports across the country. And with Move United, we program across 70 different sports. But in the past 18 months, we've seen growth in our membership of about 47%. And because of partnerships, such as organizations like Toyota, we've been able to maximize grants and that out to our programs in the field. And that community-based sport, as it picks up, we're approaching 200 members now, organizations around the country. It's 72% of the country is within a short drive. Of those 200 members, 47 are doing sled hockey as part of their programming. So USA Hockey and sled hockey is becoming more popularized, I think, as Taylor was talking about, just within the hockey community, but within the adaptive sport community, it's a go-to sport. And it's only because of partnerships like Toyota and supporters that see the value in this. And in the last year was the 30th anniversary of the ADA. And in the lead up to that and in the follow up to that, you will have seen in the media across the country, leading stories about disability pioneers, people who are at the forefront of bringing rights of inclusion and access to everything, not just sport. But we think that sport is the tool to kind of crack this next hurdle that we have ahead of us. And as we look toward LA and the Paralympic Games returning to the United States in 2028, we think the sky's the limit as far as activity, engagement, inclusiveness in sport, adaptive programming across just about every sport in the United States.
JJ, I wanted to go back to you now and talk a little bit about the different disciplines that you have in USA Hockey and the disabled hockey, because I know this is something, as you mentioned earlier, it's kind of, we've kicked into a couple of different areas and it has impacted so many lives. I've been to some of the events you guys have had, and just not only the people who participate, the young people that participate, but the parents who are involved. JJ, give us the breakdown of what the different disciplines are and how they've kind of come about over time, how it's evolved.
Absolutely. Well, we have 6 disciplines, and the reason we have 6 disciplines is at USA Hockey, the disabled hockey section. Our job is to, if you want to play hockey, regardless of what you got going on, we want to make a way to make it happen. So in Taylor's instance, he has a physical impairment, and sled hockey was the best fit. But we also have special hockey for those more on a cognitive impairment. We have deaf hockey for those with hearing impairments. We have warrior hockey now, one of the new ones for veterans with a disability, all different types. Typically PTSD and traumatic brain injuries are our 2 most prominent. Then we of course have standing amputee hockey for players that are playing with amputations but still upright. And then I'm missing one. Blind hockey. I'm sorry. Blind hockey is our newest discipline, and obviously that's for players with visual impairments. So basically, we just want to find a way to make the game available and fun and include anybody that has a disability, regardless of what type of disability that is. And we focus a lot on sled hockey because it's kind of the single sport or the single discipline that's a Paralympic sport. But the other disciplines are also really growing exponentially as well. Our warrior discipline is just really, we have teams that are popping up all over the country, virtually almost monthly, where we get new programs and new teams. Special hockey's been around for quite a while. Standing amputee's been around for quite a while. And obviously I mentioned deaf hockey has been around for 40 years, but the culmination of it all together is really, everybody working together, the different disciplines kind of working together. And some of the events you're talking about are our Disabled Hockey Festival, which brings together all 6 disciplines. We found that having all of them together in strength in numbers and strength as a whole, I probably would have to say it's somewhat similar to Move United's kind of concept, is bringing everybody together, including everybody, giving everybody the opportunity to enjoy whatever sport it is. I'm not sure what the statistics are today, but I know that a while ago it was 1 in 5 people had some form of a disability. That's a pretty big number. And so it's probably way more than how many people you would know that are Olympic athletes or play in the NFL or play in the NHL. So there's a lot of people out there with disabilities, and finding a way to have all of those people included in sport is really is really important in the quality of life of everybody across the country. And the sport of hockey has brought families together. Obviously, just everybody seems to gather around and be a part of it. So it's not just about the athlete, it's about the families too. And really, if you want to find a dedicated family, find a hockey family. Doesn't matter the disability, and you're going to find a super fan for life. So what we've done and what we do, I grew up loving the game, and it's been real enjoyable to watch this progress to get to the point where lots of people are enjoying it, regardless of what disability you have and what walk of life you come from. We can all come together to enjoy sport. And hockey just happens to be the one that we're a part of. But I think the greater movement is really everybody coming together to enjoy a sport and really improve the quality of life of everyone.
Taylor, I'll bring you back in because you're someone that really benefited in your own life from this. Just give us an idea of the impact it had on you, and also what you see now in your new role. Because again, I go back to having been at some of these events and seeing families and seeing the participants and the joy on the faces of everybody involved. I mean, some of the people are dealing with some of the younger people I've seen are dealing with different disabilities, different challenges, and yet this is an opportunity to really bring some joy into their lives. Just maybe talk about how it impacted you, and then what you're seeing in your role now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it literally changed my entire life. Before I was introduced to the sport, I basically had everything mapped out. I knew what I was going to college for. I knew what my career was going to be. And being introduced to the sport of sled hockey literally changed everything because it ignited a passion that I didn't know I had until I was exposed to the sport. And that passion was making the Paralympic team and going to the Paralympic Games, which I didn't even know about until I was exposed to the sport. I didn't play any other disabled sports growing up. I wasn't introduced to the sport until I was 15. And to be honest, I had this horrible misconception that the disabled community kind of felt sorry for themselves and they couldn't do things that other people could do. So I disassociated myself from that because I didn't feel like that was who I was. I always figured out a way to accomplish what I wanted to do, how to do things my friends and my siblings were doing. So I had this awful misconception about a community that I was a part of. And being introduced to the sport immediately shattered that misconception because I went to the rink for the first time and saw everyone out there, skating on the ice, checking each other, shooting the puck, just as hard as stand-up players. And so it really just changed my whole perception on myself as a person with a disability, what I could do, but also what the disabled community can do as a whole. And as I became more involved in the sport and traveled around the country and traveled around the world and met more people, I was just blown away by what people could accomplish. Not just on the ice, but off the ice. I've been able to see the sport grow tremendously. I've been able to see it grow internationally, and it's really completely changed the way that how I look at life and how I approach the things that I approach in life. And I know that it's done the same for countless other athletes as well as people around the game. As JJ mentioned, it's not just always about the athletes, but I've heard stories of people that saw the look on kids' faces or the athletes' faces, and just the look in their eyes and their face changed that person's life. And so, just being surrounded by the sport, by the various disciplines, the people that support disabled hockey, it changes people's lives. And once you're exposed to it, you love it, and I have no doubt that that's why it just continues to grow.
Glenn, I want to go back to the bigger picture of the adaptive sports movement, and we've seen the visibility of the Paralympic Games that's kind of risen in the last several years. Do you see that? Do you see that? And how is it impacting maybe other sports that that people who are challenged can get involved with and help better their own lives?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different aspects of it, and I've witnessed it firsthand, having been involved in Olympic and Paralympic rowing for 20 years, most notably probably at the London Paralympics, and how it transforms a nation's viewpoint on what disability is. And instead of it being a disability, it's what's this ability? What are people capable of? And I think Taylor illustrated it pretty well. He had his own preconceptions about the disability community and how they felt about themselves. And that is a common misconception for people who haven't engaged in sport, but are part of the community. And I think the Paralympics, the power that it provides is it gives a visible, aspirational opportunity, not just for athletes and prospective athletes to understand that there's potential to be just like your friends, just like your colleagues, just like your family members who've engaged in sport and play since they were kids playing hopscotch on the playground, but also for the American people to see examples of what the possibilities are, and that people aren't being heroes by participating in sport. They're engaging in life just as everyone else in America is. And they face the same challenges, the same problems, but that aspect of inclusion, that aspect of visibility at the highest level is what that brings. And we're really pleased with NBC's announcement of the television coverage that they'll be providing for Paralympics this year. We know that when the Paralympics return to the United States in 2028, that is going to be a capture point for America's attention. That there's going to be a huge wave of people that want to be involved in it, that have family members that want to be involved in it, and they're going to be looking for what's my local access point to adaptive sport. And that's part of our job is preparing for that.
All right, Russ, I want to bring you back in. At Toyota, they've made an investment at Toyota in this. It's one thing for a company to talk about something. It's another thing to take action and to really step up and make an investment. Why was it so important for Toyota to do that?
Yeah, back in March of 2015, Toyota became a top sponsor and partner of the International Olympic Committee and the International Paralympic Committee in the newly created mobility category. And really, there's no better place than the Paralympic Games for Toyota to convey our commitment to helping ensure everyone is entitled to the freedom of movement in a more inclusive society. These Paralympic athletes demonstrate that no matter the challenge, when a person is free to move, anything is possible. And as a mobility company, we're committed to providing inclusivity through freedom of movement. And we have the opportunity to demonstrate this commitment through our investment in the adaptive sports community. So all of this is to say that our partnership with the IPC is in hopes of elevating the global awareness of the Paralympic movement. Globally, we have 270 Team Toyota athletes with a balanced mix of athletes across Olympic and Paralympic, male and female, and across the sport. In addition to our relationship with the IOC and IPC here in the US, Toyota is also a proud partner of Team USA in 17 national governing bodies across winter and summer Olympic and Paralympic sports, including USA Hockey. We share many of the same values and beliefs with the Challenged Athletes Foundation and Adaptive Action Sports Organization. So it's been awesome to work with them and help create opportunities for individuals with physical disabilities to get involved with sport. We've been instrumental as a partner voice as well. So, with the USOPC, when they changed their name from the USOC to the USOPC, in addition with renaming the US International Olympic Day to Olympic and Paralympic Day presented by Toyota. And looking ahead to Beijing 2020, we're lending engineering know-how and expertise from our US racing arm, Toyota Racing Development, for a sit ski project with the USOPC and US Paralympic Alpine Skiing.
Wow, that's going to be something to look forward to. And I love the philosophy at Toyota, mobility for all. And you guys are really backing that up at Toyota with a real investment in that. That is just terrific, not only for the partnership with USA Hockey, but with all the different sports in the adaptive sports community. Really something to be really proud of, and something that we could all thank you guys for. No question about that. I want to get back to JJ and get back to my little bit of my hockey now. And I gotta ask JJ, the initiatives and the opportunities for participation, they're in place. What is USA Hockey doing to further the overall adaptive sports and Paralympic movement?
Well, we just keep trying to provide goods and services to the 6 different disciplines through governance, through rules, through resources, to enable those, sons and daughters and warriors and whomever to find the sport and enjoy it. So, in each one of those disciplines, there's specific things that we're, continuing to do. A lot of them kind of revolve around events. Usually having an event brings everybody together. So it's been difficult as of late with the pandemic. Really, we never wanted to be a super spreader event. So we've been kind of, I feel like, on pause the last year or so. And sometimes in our different disciplines, some of our participants are probably more susceptible to, serious conditions. So we've been kind of on pause a bit. But really, we're continuing to try and come up with different events and resources, and really work with everybody to try and promote the game. Our biggest goal is growth, is to be able to provide the opportunity for as many people to enjoy the game as possible, regardless of what disability you have.
Taylor, I want to bring you back in again, because you're in such a unique position as someone who has participated himself, and your involvement now. Do you find yourself like mentoring younger people or having conversations, or when people, men or women meet you and see that, you've become a 2-time champion? Is there that interaction that goes on?
Definitely. Yeah. I've got a number of relationships with some of the current men's team players and women's team national players that, I've seen them grow up throughout the sport before they made the Paralympic team, to their time on the Paralympic team. And even after I retire, I keep those channels of communication open and talk to them regularly. In my newest position as the sled rep for USA Hockey, I'm able to do that with more grassroots level players. I actually just a week ago had a dad call me and say, "Hey, me and my son are driving 3 hours to this tournament. Is there anything that you can tell him? Any pointers you can give him?" And so I just talked to him for about 30 minutes and just gave him different pointers that, he could focus on in the game. And, you could tell it meant the world to him, his son, but also to the dad. And so getting to talk to players like that, really just want to go out and have fun and be the best athlete that they can be, and sharing the things that I've learned along the way with them has been a really cool experience in this new position. One thing that USA Hockey does that some other national governing bodies don't do as well is that we manage the grassroots side of the sport as well as the elite side of the sport. A lot of organizations only do one or the other. And so, I think the benefit of that is we've been able to grow the grassroots side of the sport over the years, and that success has bled right over into our national team programs. With the men's sled hockey team winning 4 of the last 5 gold medals in the Paralympic Games. We just added the women's national sled hockey team officially under USA Hockey, and the IPC just announced the first International Women's World Cup with the hopes that they'll be added to the Paralympic agenda here in the next couple of Paralympic Games. And so internationally, we're seeing the success that we've had here in the United States spread all over the globe. There's teams all over the world now, from your typical Scandinavian countries, Finland, Sweden, Norway. Sweden and Norway are actually the 2 oldest countries. That's where the sport originated. But now we've got teams in China, Australia. So, just like teams are popping up here in the United States, we're starting to see them pop up all over the world, which is the true testament of the success of the Paralympic movement. The movement is just, reaching far and wide across the entire world. And, a lot of that is thanks to sponsors like Toyota taking the message to all ends of the earth, and also the media coverage that we're seeing, not just from NBC Sports here in the US, but to TV providers across the world. You mentioned London earlier was one of the tipping points, I think, for the Paralympic movement, and it's just exciting to see that growth continue to happen. Paralympic Games every 2 years.
Yeah, there's so many great stories, and I know certainly watching the sled hockey over the last couple of years at the Paralympics, Team USA, Team Canada. I mean, those are as thrilling games as you're going to watch in any sport of any kind. So I am looking forward to seeing them do battle again. And of course, for Team USA, find a way to win again,
Yeah.
which is what they've been doing in these games, which has been pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully it's not as close as it was in Pyeongchang, but yeah, you can never get tired of a US-Canada rivalry game, especially when a gold medal's on the line.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Glenn, let me bring you back in because I wanted to ask, you guys are involved, USA Hockey is involved within that Move United network. Where are some more opportunities for involvement in your mind?
I think USA Hockey is a really good example of a strong leader in the adaptive sports space. And they do a really good job of providing structure, education resources, kind of on a one-on-one basis, clinics at some of our events around the country. Obviously, they provide the infrastructure around where our member organizations go to compete and interact. So I would say USA Hockey is a good example of how it works when it works well. And how it interacts with the other things we do. We're programming 12 months a year. So we have summer sports, we have winter sports, we have recreation, outdoor rec. So there's a lot of our athletes that are looking for that winter activity, and maybe they're a summer track racer or play basketball or tennis. And so that role within the overall ecosystem of adaptive sport is a really important aspect so that people have an opportunity to cross train. so that they're not fatigued and just focused on one element of sport, but that they're mixing it up and having different social interactions and different opportunities to grow as an athlete, just as any athlete would want to.
Len, what are some of the, outside of hockey, what are some of the other adaptive sports that are really growing and really picking up steam, and that maybe, someone who's watching this might want to, try to find out more about or try to watch?
Yeah, there's some fantastic examples. We've got climbing is coming out just gangbuster right now. There's a lot of activity around that. Some perennial favorites have been archery, track and field, and swimming, which have really strong populations that continue to grow and expand. We have a sanctioned summer competition series that involves 24 events around the country for youth and adults, and a junior national championship that we're looking at over the next 3 years, growing 30 to 50% of participation. At the recreational level, outdoor shooting, hiking, and snow sport. So, COVID has been an interesting year to kind of manage this. And what we found is there's an enormous growth potential in that digital space as well. In person, we serve about 100,000 across our 200 member organizations. When we flipped to Adapt at Home program, which is our digital platform, last April 1st, we've had 270,000 people come through 2,200 sessions that we've offered online. We wouldn't have had that reach without COVID. It was on our plan to develop digital, but it's a game changer in getting people involved. And it's things like yoga, it's things like strength and conditioning training, just about anything that you could do, with your Peloton app, we're trying to replicate for the adaptive sports community, and the appetite is there. So I think, as we look at hockey is just going to continue to grow in their lane, but there are a lot of other lanes on this highway for adaptive sport.
Wow. And it's just great to see that more people are taking advantage of this, because it is such a great way to kind of find joy in your life. And it's as it has for all different men and women over the course of many, many years now. So it's great to see that. Russ, I want to bring you back in, because you guys at Toyota, you're the presenting sponsor of USA Hockey's Disabled Hockey Festival, and you play obviously a crucial role in celebrating athlete achievements and growing recognition for USA Hockey's disabled disciplines. Can you share just a little bit more with us about the involvement with the Disabled Hockey Festival and why it's so important for Toyota as part of that overall support for USA Hockey?
Yeah, I said earlier that, Toyota believes in that inclusive, barrier-free world, and we're dedicated to helping people move, whether that's across the town, across a room, or even just through life. And we often find that sports reiterates those beliefs, as athletes share many of our own company values of humility, hard work, and overcoming challenges. And one of those sports is hockey, which I personally have been impacted by. I've played for 45 years and I love the sport. We're proud partners of USA Hockey since 2012, and we've been the title sponsor of the festival since 2017. We believe in the power of sport, and this festival is the perfect example of how it can bring fans together to celebrate and support athletes in the disabled hockey community. There are case studies that show how awareness can contribute to the participation. So we thought how great it would be to work with everyone at USA Hockey to continue to have this festival to bring awareness to the disabled hockey disciplines. That awareness just might inspire that one young boy or girl or that wounded vet to seek out resources to get out on the ice, and this past year has been nothing short of challenging, as you mentioned, but we're grateful to USA Hockey that they've been able to adapt to the ever-changing events landscape and still find a way to support the disabled hockey community with this year's festival.
Well, Russ, as the owner of 2 Toyota Priuses, I'm even happier now. I mean, the vehicle was great, and now to see that you guys are doing such terrific work, I'm really thrilled to hear that. JJ, I'm going to give you the final word here. What's the message for you in terms of if there's individuals out there that are watching this that want to find out more? How can they go about doing it, or how could they get involved if they just want to help at the grassroots level in their communities?
Sure. I mean, the easiest way is to go to usahockey.com and kind of scroll through and find disabled hockey. You can find Taylor's information. You can find my information. And really, there's an abundance of links there and contacts. So regardless of where you're from or what your disability might be. We're looking for your abilities. That's really what's most important, because everybody has them. So usahockey.com. And, as we've done this discussion, there is one piece to this that we probably should mention. And I kind of got to flip the script a little bit on you here, EJ. You're hosting this roundtable, but similar to these organizations here, the NHL has been a huge component of the growth of disabled hockey, and USA Hockey partnering with the NHL in all forms of hockey, and the NHL's drive to and improve on inclusion and diversity. Maybe EJ, you should speak on the NHL's kind of side of things, because I think that's been a huge part of our growth, our awareness, and what we do. So, the NHL has been a big proponent and big part of this as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, JJ. The NHL has been involved. We all know about the Hockey is for Everyone campaign that they've had now for many years, and they're trying to walk the walk, and they're trying to be involved in a lot of different areas to help, make it more inclusive for people of all different kinds to get involved with hockey, for certainly to help those who have different handicaps or disabilities to then bring some joy, as I mentioned, into their lives. I can't reiterate it enough. I've been fortunate to live in the Jersey Shore area. I've been around at the Ocean Ice Palace, the old Ocean Ice Palace, which has been there a long time, and the Brick Stars program, where they have special needs children and families that come and skate on Sunday mornings. And boy, it's hard to leave there without a big smile on your face to see kids that are part of the youth teams there on the ice, volunteering, helping those who have challenges, and looking and talking to the families who are, as you guys all know, I mean, you're involved in this. This is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for individuals who have these different disabilities. And to have moments where you can have joy and to kind of express yourself in different ways, I think has just been outstanding. So the National Hockey League is always trying to do what it can to kind of push that forward. And JJ, it's been a partnership with USA Hockey and with great corporate partners like Toyota, and then we Move United. Everybody is trying to pull the rope here a little bit. And I think, we've come a long way, but we've certainly got a long way to go. But I would thank all four of you guys for taking the time today to be part of this roundtable. And for those of you watching, if there's anything that you can do in your community, reach out and do it. I always say it doesn't cost you anything to be nice. So to try to help others. So thanks again, guys. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see you all at the rink.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.